Oi, oi.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm not bad actually. I want to make an apology because we didn't have an episode last week, and that was 100% my fault. My brain was a bit frazzled, and I just couldn't, mentally, I couldn't arrange a time that made sense for my brain and my life at the time. So we just never recorded one, and we didn't even put out a message to say there wouldn't be an episode. But you know what? Here we are.
Yeah, and also what we're talking about today, we wanted to do it properly. Like we didn't want to just half do it, did we? So we wanted to make sure we had the time and the space to talk about today's topic, like, you know, with the respect that we thought it deserved.
Yeah, for sure. But I will say that
we missed you guys.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say that Spotify every year have like a Spotify Wrapped, you know, kind of summary of how your year was, either as like a Spotify listener and you get your, you know, your favorite songs and all that, or if you're a podcaster and you use their platform to distribute your podcast, you get a summary as well, like how many listeners you've had, which geographical areas you've reached, and so on. And so after the week of not putting out an episode and actually seeing our stats culminated over the year, because we joke a lot about how, you know, we're literally talking into the abyss.
We're talking to each other only.
A black hole of just me and you. It was nice to kind of see like, oh yeah, it wasn't too bad when you put it into percentages. I mean, going from 2 listeners,
the percentages were kind.
Exactly. When you go from 2 listeners to about 6 listeners, it's a nice like 200% increase.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, well, we've reached 29 countries. No, it felt cool, and for sure, like, I know we make a joke about it, but anyone who takes the time to listen to us and our drivel, like, we're very appreciative of that.
For sure.
You know, busy lives these days, hey? So if you're making some time for us, what you doing?
Get a life, guys.
Snap out of it. Oh man. No, but it's really cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. And also a big thank you to everyone who's been a guest on our podcast as well.
Yeah, they definitely make this like feel, I don't know, I still feel like such like a, what's the word, a phony when we have someone like as a guest on, because they're all such cool people. They're always such great guests. I'm like, what are they doing talking to us? But they make it really enjoyable, and for sure like will be a big part of the appeal, I'm sure.
Sure.
But yeah, our guests are cool guys. Yeah.
So
what is okay, let's go for fashion. Hang on. Ding 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 ding. I think we need an update on Miranda's no spend.
Oh, good. I'm surprised you remembered that. Okay, so
how's your no spend going then, Mimula?
I will preface this by saying that I always said that around Christmas time would be the hardest time of the year for me. Yeah. But by my standards, I don't think I've done too badly. I have bought something, of course, because, you know, guys, I already said I was going to buy something.
For Christmas.
For Christmas, for myself.
Yeah.
So, first thing I'll say is that I bought myself a pair of boots. I was showing you the boots. I bought them in the end.
Oh, you bought them? Oh, nice. Yeah, lovely. Okay, so shoes don't count then?
I mean, they all count. I'm not even denying, like, everything I bought counts, but I just think in the grand scheme of things, they were
the grand scheme of things, you're also buying a whole lot less, right? So
yeah, that's what I tell myself. So I bought a pair of boots which will double up as a Christmas present from my mum, because she also said that she would give me money towards it. So
lovely,
a bargain.
Lovely. Yeah.
I also have, do you ever get it when you have this like one basic item in your wardrobe and you've had it for years and you just like how it fits on you, just the shape of it, the cut, it's really basic, but you're like, I need to find more of those.
Yes.
If I could get my hands on more of those, I would buy them in different colors. And so I have this Gap long sleeve t-shirt, and I went on the Gap website. I'd done it previously before, but I just bit the bullet. And they were selling, and I bought this t-shirt literally, not an exaggeration, like 4 years ago. And it's just my favorite t-shirt. And they still sell them in the same make, in the same cut. And so I bought myself 3. And they were on discount. It was Black Friday.
Yes.
So I'm very satisfied by those t-shirts. It's the little things.
You know what? That makes me think. I mean, I don't know if I can wait a year to restock certain basics that I think are bored people with even talk about a few weeks ago. But that's actually a really good time to stock up. I really hate the like you have to spend money on basics or replenishing stuff. Because like, and don't get me wrong, I really use a lot of my clothes. Like, of course, I've got those like standout things where like they probably only get a few wears ever.
Mm-hmm.
But like my basics, I really use.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, like you get like underlayers or like whatever that have like holes in, or like your favorite top after a while you want more of.
Mm-hmm.
I really begrudge spending money on that. So that's a good way to use Black Friday there. Yeah.
And then I bought one more thing.
So this is like your Christmas present to yourself.
Well, you know, I could say if I was trying to be kind to myself. I bought a tracksuit, a jumper, trousers, and again, I find it's a basic.
Hang on, you also bought a dress from Hollister.
Oh, I returned it.
Oh, okay.
I returned it. Yeah,
I thought that was your Christmas present to yourself.
It was originally, but then I returned it.
So you got a tracksuit. Okay,
I got a tracksuit, and it was by this brand. It sounds like it has a very fancy name, but I don't really know. It's the package said it was from Cheshire, so I don't know. It's called like Manière de Voir.
Ooh.
Yeah, it sounds really fancy. But they had a Black Friday sale, and I wear a lot of tracksuits when I'm at home and when it's just, you know, like
from home life. Yeah.
Yeah, like I appreciate a matching jumper and tracky bums co-ord set. Mm-hmm. So I bought theirs. It's like an oversized fit in like a chocolatey brown color. You know when you're on like Instagram and you see all these like super, now I'm going to sound shallow, but we've all done it. You know, you see these like super wealthy like fashion bloggers who are like going to like Dior shows and all that shit. And when they have like their Instagram reels, and they're always just like in a really nice trackie and like a big trench or something. And they've got like this nice bag. You're like, oh, that's a simple, but it's a great look. I just bought myself another tracksuit because I thought, oh, this will be my like, not trying too hard.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but they're trying really hard because they've got like a sleek like pulled back bun, nice jewelry on, like a Chanel handbag as an accessory.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, nice. Speaking of Chanel, we'll get onto it. But yeah, I bought one. It came and the quality is really nice.
Nice.
So I'm not gonna lie, if after
you're happy with your purchases,
yeah, solid. They are solid purchases, and I feel like they were considered purchases, which is like kind of the name of the game.
The whole point of it, right? It's to rewire your brain for like the way you spend money on clothes and things.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. We interrupt this broadcast to remind you, go follow us on Instagram, Style Over Substance Pod. Shoot us an email, styleoversubstancepeak@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter. We've got all the links on our Instagram. You know what to do. Right. What is your fashion story this week?
I think you should start because I was rambling for a bit.
Okay, sure. So I've got like a few sort of like observational, I guess, fashion stories. My first one is, it's the Christmas season coming. I can literally see one of my seasonal purchases in front of me.
Oh, is it the advent calendar?
No.
Oh, okay.
Sequin skirt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's got fringe.
Love it. But my question is, why Like, I feel like fashion's really changed in the last few years. And like pre-COVID, I feel like we stopped saving things for best as much. And I feel like loads of like fashionistas would kind of just like, you know, really overdress, like for whatever occasion.
Like BC,
or like dress. Huh?
Are we talking BC?
BC, yeah. Okay. Like, I feel like you would see someone and they just dress how they want to dress, and maybe like that's not normally how anyone would dress for a brunch or whatever, but they'd be like, yeah, I want to wear this, like, and they'd style it down or whatever. But I feel like people would push the limits on like what we normally, you know, the jeans and t-shirt era. Like, I feel like people would push the limits on that. And I know we're still like coming out of our activewear slump, but like, I feel like sequins just get put in a bit of a box. It's Christmas time, we suddenly see sequins come out, or it's a certain type of event, sequins come out. And I feel like there's going to be a moment soon where like sequins kind of become more of an everyday thing. But like, would you wear sequins to the workplace?
Oh no, I would.
That's like, but like, you could just like, I don't know, a subtle sequin. No such thing. The only time I do is on my Christmas jumpers.
I think, yeah, you're right in that sequins is definitely one of those like materials or charms or whatever that's specifically saved for the holiday, quote unquote, the holiday season. Not even kind of like if it's your birthday during the year, do people really step out in sequins? It's very much a New Year's Eve, a Christmas theme.
It's quite random, isn't it?
It is random, but I love sequins.
I love a sequin, yeah. But like, it's weird that we sort of just put them in like a little box, because if like normally what happens is if we like something as a society, we're like, why are we keeping it just for Christmas?
Sequins is not just for Christmas.
It's not just for Christmas.
It's for life. Yeah.
And like, as a little like tangent from that, I feel like the feather revolution is really like heavily upon us in clothing. And I actually bought some feather trousers that they weren't how I needed them to be. I had really high hopes. I've been wanting them for ages, and I thought they were going to be really cool, and just the fit was not nice. And I felt really sorry for myself because I was really excited to have a feather moment.
Yeah.
But I find it funny that feathers aren't like deemed as like an animal cruelty thing the same way fur is.
I think
like, I know it's a slightly different way of obtaining it, but
I mean,
there's got to be something not quite nice going on there, surely.
It depends who you speak to. Having the fact that I live with a full-blown vegan, doesn't want to wear leather type of person, having down duvets and down pillows with feathers in it is not something he is okay with, because obviously you have to pluck the bird.
Yeah.
It's like peeling off someone's skin, isn't it? It is. There is cruelty involved in that. Obviously they do it when for most of the feathers that we see and that we use, the bird isn't killed for its feathers. It's just killed.
It's part of the cycle of other things.
But yeah, it depends on how the person you're speaking to. I think for people who are like bang into environmental issues, or they're vegan, or they would deem it as very similar. I think that it just hasn't hit the mainstream in the same way. I think maybe if you said, peacock feathers, people would be like, that's an exotic bird, because there's this almost this hierarchy in what is seen as an exotic animal and what is like a cow, so I think the mainstream, that discussion hasn't been targeted.
It's just funny because like they've kind of had a real like surge. So they used to be kind of kept for like, I guess, more couture and all of that stuff. But it's been on like the high street, and like, don't get me wrong, you can really tell like River Island feathers is not the same as like, I don't know, some slightly more premium feathers. Those feathers look like they come straight off a chicken.
Some of them are synthetic?
I think they can be, yeah. But like, I'm just sort of surprised that I don't know. I'm very surprised by it, to be honest. And even my own attitude, I think I'd be much more reluctant to buy something that had a fur trim than a feather trim. But that also could be price tag related as well. Because real fur is like,
also with
madness.
real fur, very often the animal is alive while it's skinned. And I've witnessed those videos and it's horrible. People say, oh, it's byproduct of the meat, but not when it's a rabbit. It's not. Like, they're skinned alive because it keeps the fur in a condition.
In a certain condition,
and
it's the same with snake skin.
Oh, it's horrible,
because otherwise it like seizes up or like something like that, you know.
Oh,
rank, utterly rank.
But
I just kind of, not to put a downer on everyone, I hope no one's eating whilst listening.
But circling back to your sequins discussion, I think that what we've seen happen with velvet could happen with sequins, because
velvet's so mainstream.
Velvet is, and it's not. That used to be primarily a like Christmas party, thing, or just a very luxurious dinner.
Very true.
And now throw on a brown velvet blazer, and you can dress it with like jeans during the day or whatever. And I think, I don't know, is it like the revival of this like 70s aesthetic?
Yeah,
maybe,
potentially. But yeah, I just sort of like, I don't know, I just saw sort of some of my sequins. I was like, that's funny actually, that like that's very much like just a certain time of year. There aren't many things that we sort of keep for stuff like that now. Yeah. What is your fashion story?
So my first one is it's a story really that's confirming one of our worst fears of this year. And that first reared its head with Molly May a few months ago. And then we saw
Kendall
Jenner doing this. And now we see Cardi B has been appointed the creative director of Playboy. Now, I actually...
Do we know in what capacity?
Creative director. I don't know.
But like of their whole empire?
Anything
of their fashion, apparel?
That's like creative. So even if you were a creative, from what I'm expecting...
So even like photo shoots for the magazine?
I think so. Like, okay, hear me out. When you're a creative director for a fashion brand, you're obviously involved in designing the clothes, but also how the perfume bottle looks, how the marketing looks. You might not be the photographer.
Yeah.
But the overall vision for the brand is dictated by what you want. Like,
so they have a lot of strings to their bow.
Yeah, well, I suspect that she will be doing like who they want. She'll be choosing who's going to be part of their branding.
Yeah.
Playboy has a kind of cult following when it comes to their apparel as well. It's like it's a classic 2000s aesthetic. And how the magazine, the vibe of the magazine is going to be, and who they feature in the magazine. That's what I'm expecting.
It's just, I get it. I wouldn't mind betting she's quite a good fit for it. Like, she'll be very much clued in on like the pop culture and like the right people and the right vibe. But just feels really random as well. Because we haven't heard much about Playboy since Hef died.
I think they've been going through a revamp,
a rebranding type of a thing.
I think this is part of it. But like, as I said to you before, I think that being appointed creative director of Playboy is quite iconic, and I have to admit, like, it's pretty baller. Like,
yeah,
like culturally, that is quite a cool thing to be appointed.
And in the States, probably even more so.
Yeah, definitely. But
like,
it still goes back to the point of what is a celebrity creative director?
What is she doing? I need to see her itinerary. Like I need to see her diary.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. She's already got enough jobs.
Yeah.
And then I want to know which other company is going to come out and say they've got a creative director of, like Fashion Nova. I don't know.
Yeah. I know. I'm telling you now, if any of the big top dogs, like if Louis V, Chanel, Hermes just start doing this, the fashion industry will crumble.
They have real creative directors. I just hope they're not celebrities.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I hope they don't start just going like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, definitely very, very iconic for her. Like, yeah, that's a big deal.
Mm. Do you have another fashion story?
I don't think so.
I have something that I do want to ask you.
Okay.
Really briefly. It's just a thought.
Yeah, no.
So I was on TikTok and I've come across this really interesting account. And she's actually another podcaster. Maybe we should bring her on.
Yeah.
But she was talking about celebrities who have had cosmetic surgery who fail to be honest about that surgery, and then they blame it on like olive oil or like sweet potato.
Yeah.
Like how their look has dramatically changed. And she has a theory that, we went through this period of how celebrities were all trying to alter themselves to look more like Kim K, because she was like the reigning queen. So it was like you want to emulate the most successful person. And now she thinks that everyone's kind of trying to look like Emily Ratajkowski.
Ratajkowski, or well, yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
I
don't know how you say it.
I think it's Ratajkowski. I wondered what your thoughts were on like that theory.
So is she meaning more like body image wise or facially?
I think a bit of both, but primarily facially.
Okay. I mean, that, like, first of all, like, it deeply saddens me that people are doing it like based on a particular person. It's one thing to be like the big lip trend. It's one thing to like want a smaller nose or like, get a bit of like, I don't know, Botox and stuff, but like just to model your looks on someone else's to me is like bonkers. But I guess that's essentially what the big lip trend is, right? That's like the Kylie effect, that subconsciously we're emulating what she's done to her face.
Yeah.
With the big lip trend, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I'd put like Emily as like the new it person. And also she's got European descent, right? So like she's got a very European, so like it's kind of funny, isn't it, that actually those are two like contrasting exotic looks. Like Kim's Armenian, then we're going for like someone who's, I don't know where Emily Ratajkowski is from, and I'm absolutely butchering her name.
Every way we say it is like,
but like we always think the typical like ideological beauty is like Western. So it's kind of funny that actually the things that people want to emulate isn't, and it's like proof that like that it's all just a bit bonkers. I don't know,
it's a bit like all these trends are really fleeting, isn't it? But I guess
I would urge anyone to never do it just for a trend, I hope that goes without saying,
especially the eye one, when they like pull your eyes up.
Yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because I guess all of it comes from somewhere, right? Say if I have Botox tomorrow, it's only because I've seen other faces stop themselves from aging. Because actually, I don't have a complex about the fact that like lines sit somewhere. It's only because people have stopped themselves from having lines that you get these sorts of complexes necessarily. Yeah, I feel like, I think it's going to get like, I think the plastic surgery game is just good, like it's going to snowball soon.
Yeah,
because I think what we're going to see is people who do the BBLs, like in some time, like the Kardashians are kind of like, I know they're probably about to launch their new show and maybe they'll be like the next big thing again, but I doubt it. Like I think their time has like had its moment. So like the next ideal body shape can't be theirs. So then everyone who's done all the stuff to have that body shape, I almost feel like we'll then do like a reversal at some point to become the next body shape. I feel like we're going to see people just like warping themselves.
Yeah, I've seen other people talk about how they believe Kim has downsized her bum and how she's slimmer on the bottom than how we've seen her previously. Less ant-like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I agree. Don't model yourself on someone else, their whole appearance, because that never ends well. But I definitely do think that within Hollywood there are these shifts to look more like whoever is trending and whatever is.
Yeah.
And everyone just looks the same.
Yeah. I also feel like, and I know it's difficult too, and actually we're meant to have had this like revolution that every picture is meant to kind of come with a watermark, right? If it's been somewhat photoshopped, which still I haven't like seen evidence of.
Yeah.
But there's almost got to be some sort of like, there's got to be a duty that like J-Lo doesn't just look like that. You know? Like Gwyneth doesn't just look like that because she uses her cream.
I think there's a difference between someone consciously knowing, like, okay, this is all a mirage, this is not true, this is just social media, because the younger generations are fully aware of that. But then the younger generation is also too young to kind of fight off this constant barrage of images in their like subconscious. Like no matter how much you try, if you're following these people, then it's gonna alter the way you see yourself and the way you feel about yourself. Like I don't really follow celebs like that unless I like really love them as a person.
Yeah,
amazing. But I don't just like follow blanket all the biggest celebrities or like all these like what's like gym bunnies and stuff, because like I'm not trying to make myself feel bad about myself.
Exactly. You know? But then it's also like the articles, right? So like say like a women's health where it's like these are the top like 5 tips that like, or the top 5 drugstore products that like J-Lo swears by. And it's like, that is not why J-Lo looks the way that she does.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's sort of that thing where you almost need like them to add the clause of like alongside her like skincare regimen, like by her facialist and also by her like I don't know
products,
her like Botox doctor.
Yeah. A lot to talk about in that regards, I suppose. But I guess our topic.
So our topic, you might have gathered it wasn't one of our fashion stories, and it's probably the biggest thing that's happened in fashion this month, is the passing of Virgil Abloh. So we thought we'd bring back sort of one of our like brand, I guess, episodes or like designer episodes, and we're kind of going to reflect on Virgil and you know what, like the rocket of a career he had in actually a really short space of time. Like I think this is why we wanted to do it, right? Because actually I think there's so much that people don't really know about him, and there was so much that I definitely didn't know, sort of almost like how quickly he took off, I kind of didn't really realize.
Yeah.
And that's quite unusual in fashion. Like, I was like, you know, those overnight success stories often are actually like 10 years in the making.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like he was onto something really quick and really quickly got noticed for that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so,
do you want to kick us off with?
I'll kick us off. I'll do a rundown of his like overall career first, and then I think there's like lots of things like thematically that we could probably talk about Virgil and like his legacy and what he managed to do during his life. But so yeah, Virgil passed away and he was only 41, and that in itself is like, to me, was a shocker, because it was like only, what was it, like 3-4 years ago. And so in 2018 he was appointed creative director of Louis Vuitton men's, which is huge.
Really young to be appointed that in your 30s.
Someone to have, like, as you said, although he's been like artistic for many, many years, but for someone to come into the fashion industry, be taken seriously, quite quickly in comparison to maybe other people, let's say. And then to be like the first Black appointed creative director for a major French fashion house is like such a big milestone. And then on top of the fact that he was battling cancer for the past few years and no one knew about it. I think that was like the shocker. But yeah. So he was born in 1980, and he actually was trained as an architect. So he studied civil engineering and then did a master's in architecture. And while he was at uni, he was actually a DJ. Like, I don't know, when I think of Virgil Abloh, I think of like typical art kid.
Yeah.
You know,
like in the wholest sense.
Yeah.
Just like could turn a hand to anything creative, and of course that's what he would like be good at, or have like an exhibition of, or
exactly, like was into like the academic side of art and architecture and music and fashion and all of this stuff, and quite took it in a really like conceptual way, or believed in like the culture of things as opposed to just like, I'm designing clothes. But yeah, so he's a DJ, and he then went on to intern at Fendi in Milan alongside Kanye West, which is a pretty big deal. Like,
I did not know. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know Kanye did an internship.
Well, I learned this recently as well. I had to check. I was like, what? But so yeah, he got into fashion while he was on campus, and there was like this building that was being constructed at the time by an architect who had also designed or helped design runway collections for Prada. So I guess maybe he saw that like link between architecture and fashion in a way that he didn't appreciate before.
And he was like designing graphic t-shirts, wasn't he, whilst he was at like uni or college, whatever they call it in America.
So dismissive.
I know I sound really like blasé today. I haven't got time for sensitivity. But yeah, keep going.
So that's true. So Virgil Abloh and a guy called Don C, who I believed was working like with Kanye West, like creatively. I think at this point Kanye West was somebody at this point, like we knew who Kanye West was. They opened a fashion store and they were selling clothing and apparel of like other brands that they liked. Later on, bringing in this whole like printed t-shirts aesthetic, he opened his like own brand, which was called Pyrex Vision. And what he would do was buy dead stock of Ralph Lauren goods, whatever, green printing on them, and sell them for like huge markups. And from what I've read, it was more of like a chance for him to like creatively experiment and I guess like test the waters more than it was like, I'm going to make millions of this like idea. And so that kind of lends itself from, in 2013, he'd started or launched his brand called Off-White.
Yeah.
And this was like luxury streetwear, you know, the aesthetic of streetwear, but with a luxury price tag and quality and like luxury considerations, I suppose.
Yeah. Like basically elevating, I guess, what we saw as like quite dismissive, like either kept for like kind of what the loungewear as we know now. He was trying to redefine that, like, I guess, right? So like not it just being something that you just wear inside or quickly run and do errands or do like your workout in.
Yeah.
Like a very considered, like streetwear, like that's probably just got a bit more of like where streetwear actually came from in the first place.
Yeah. And like, as I said at the beginning of this episode, the idea that I was looking for a tracksuit, which I felt was like of nice quality and looked good, and I felt like I could go out in it and it still be part of like a polished look. I mean, we all follow people online who wear Nikes carrying an Hermes bag.
Yeah.
Growing up, that didn't happen. Like people were either dressed up, body
or dressed down,
dressed down, and you were a chav if you were like khakis, or you just like, you know, just kind of you're wearing it because you were playing football or you worked at Sports Direct or something. That was it. It wasn't like this idea of elevated sports.
It's so true. It's so true. With
Sports Direct, we all bought school trainers from there. So so it was part of that kind of era. And then I don't know if you remember, like when Givenchy, Riccardo Tisci had those like long t-shirts and stuff. And that was the first time we saw kind of like menswear and t-shirts and stuff on the runway. I know, it just reminds me of that time. But so he launched Off-White, and as you said, it helped to push what was typically deemed as streetwear into a more luxurious, higher price tag range. And guys, you all remember those like construction belts? Remember those?
Yeah.
That is pretty much his career before 2018 when he was appointed creative director of Louis Vuitton Men's. And I think now he has the term like the Karl Lagerfeld of our generation has been like bandied about to describe him. In effect, I think that people draw parallels between his ability to have so many projects and to be so far ranging beyond just fashion in the same way that Karl was.
Yeah, and Karl, I think, from like rocketed as well. Like Karl kind of became somebody quite quickly, or it was quite clear that he was going to become somebody. But yeah, he just like, I think he's I think you said it quite well earlier of like, he's not just someone who's like, his thing is just to design clothes. I think he thinks about the like creativity on such like a full picture that even in Off-White, you know, he did the collaborations with IKEA, which is like, would like, it makes so much sense to see it, but I bet people thought he was insane for thinking to do a collaboration with IKEA. And like, you know, like making like those IKEA bags, but like the Off-White version, and that like them selling out. And essentially you could have just shopped in IKEA and got like basically what that bag was.
Exactly. I think that touched on like the collaborations is definitely a massive part of his career, but also, and I will admit myself, I was never the biggest fan of Off-White. And I think the reason why I didn't like it, I think a lot of people didn't like it for the same reason. And it was very often, for me, it was too simple. Like the idea that you could write quotation marks sculpture on a brown IKEA bag and it sell out like crazy. It was just like, I get that he's like, it's more of a culture, it's more of a movement, and it's more of something you buy into rather than, I really need a bag that's a sculpture on it, you know? So I think people saw those collaborations and probably thought like, what is he adding here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. But like, yeah, I think he just sort of had quite like he thought quite wholly about it, and you know, even I guess like the fact that he's got an architectural background and stuff like that, I think just that's what Carl did, right? Like I bet when he thought of Chanel's shows, he almost had probably planned the set design. Like I bet it all comes together.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind betting that he was quite similar.
Yeah. So he had a really big collaboration with Nike as well.
Yeah.
So if you get your hands on, you know, like off-white Nike trainers, which are easily kind of noticeable by their zip tags kind of hanging off the side.
Wasn't there a really famous thing? Like I remember Biebs had some and like loads of people like, what? And wasn't there a famous thing of like someone's dad like cut the zip tie off their trainers?
Yeah,
they didn't like really get it.
Yeah.
Because they almost look like they should be returned to the shop or something.
I
remember like people being like, what are these shoes that like look kind of like they shouldn't have that on them.
I remember in one of my previous roles there was a Jimmy Choo and Off-White collaboration, and they brought the I was working for like an retailer, and they had pieces in this quite limited collection, and they brought it in to show us so that we kind of have a view of it. And the Jimmy Choo and Off-White collection, I will say I did like this, because to me, I hadn't seen shoes done like this in this way, but it was like stiletto pumps, but wrapped in this like plastic film, like the film that you would cover, not cling film, but like a thicker version of cling film. And there would be knee-high boots covered in this as well, and pumps that were wrapped in these shoes as well, and it kind of like tied around the ankle like a sweetie that was, the shoe was wrapped in this plastic almost to like, would it make it waterproof or to protect them? I'm not sure, but I remember looking at that and being like, you know what, it's quite a sophisticated look. It's not, let's say, the streetwear that you would probably expect Off-White, or a level of like, oh, this is casual that you expected from Off-White. But it was for like those who wanted to be a bit more dressed up and glamorous, but still with a very of the moment cool collaboration as well. So I remember looking at that and being like, you know what, I quite like these.
Yeah, I think that was what he did, is he almost like made something that you'd be questioning if it's nice or if it's ugly. You know, like pushing the boundaries on like how we see things, and like like warping our sense of like, you know, like taking something that's an IKEA bag and like trying to like redefine it.
I think it's tongue-in-cheek as well.
Like, for sure, like there's humor in that. And like the fact that like saying sculpture and all of that stuff, like it's an ironic thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Another thing also, when I think of Virgil Abloh, is the idea of being like a jack of all trades. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? And I mean, it's a pointless kind of debate to have, but I do think of him as like a guy who had fingers in different pies and like reveled in it. I listened to, actually, The Guardian had like a tribute episode on their podcast, and the designer at A Cold Wall, which is like another kind of quote unquote streetwear brand, he knew Virgil Abloh and when he said that he was appointed the creative director of Louis Vuitton Men's, Virgil believed like this was only the beginning for him. And I thought that is just so like poignant, because often that's the destination for people, like, you know, like creative director.
You've made it.
I made it. For him, it was like, no, there's far more that I want to do. This is just a vehicle for me to get there.
Yeah. And I think it's like there's got to be like such a determined drive like in him, because I think he like graduated in like 2009, and that's when he started his internship with Fendi. So in the space, like, so that's you're entering fashion 2009. In less than 10 years you become artistic director of Louis V's menswear. Like that is mind-boggling. And like, I mean, we can also discuss whether or not the fact like his friendship with Kanye and all of that stuff helped. And I wouldn't mind betting, yes, that is the case, because of the connections that Kanye has and the project. Like, I didn't know. Oh, yeah. He was the artistic director for their Watch the Throne album, Jay-Z and Kanye.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea that was like, but like the fact that like, first of all, like such a huge album.
Yeah.
For him to be involved in that and to have the support of someone who at that point, like, I mean, Kanye goes through phases, doesn't he, of being at the top of his game. But like at that point, that's like one of the biggest albums.
Yeah.
And for him to be involved in that way, I don't know if that was like a financial support or like something.
No, so
just mixing in that circle. Just, I don't know.
Him and Kanye West were like friends for a long time. I think they had mutual appreciation for like each of their artists.
They're probably both as bonkers as each other.
Yeah, exactly. I think they were both like artistically like bonkers and like thought big and like characters in that
dream
way.
Big.
And Kanye West had this artistic agency called Donda. His mum, and he was appointed like the creative director or artistic director of that. So anything that Kanye West put out, whether it was like the visuals of his album or like projects he had, or remember Kim Kardashian had that book and it was just like her selfies. Do you remember that? It was like random book. It was like Kim has a picture book.
Of course.
He kind of was the artistic director of those. So all these little projects they had, it was like under his direction, under the umbrella, the company of Donda. So Kanye West was the massive, like, he probably introduced him to people and brought him on to in for his ride. So
and maybe that helped him with like being prepared for, I guess, that CEO label founder role of having to juggle a lot of different things, because like Off-White took off really quickly, right? So in 2013 it launched. By the next year he's launching the women's wear version of the line and showing in Paris. And then in like 4 short years, and like and so he was also nominated or put forward for an LVMH prize, but he lost out to Jacquemus and someone else. But like he was obviously on the radar then of the LVMH group, but still like in 4 years.
It's insane. Yeah.
Like that's crazy. But then also like it didn't feel like it didn't feel irresponsible, and there's no way LVMH would try and make an irresponsible decision on like their faculty. And especially when it is someone like, it's important because he was the first Black artistic director of menswear. You're not going to make that lightly to just make, you're not going to do it just to do it. You've got to make sure it's like the right person for it, and
someone who
all of that
represents you and the brand. And And I think he had a massive following at that point, which helped. Like he cultivated his own.
Off-White had like a cult following. Yeah. Especially because of like, I think the footwear and stuff like that. I think it was the accessories that like became very like
for sure
iconic
those
and
bags,
to be seen with.
Remember this? They had like those clips on them. And then they had I wasn't a fan of Off-White.
I'm not, I mean, it's not my style. And it had a lot of that like yellow webbing with like Off-White on or like whatever.
But loads of people loved it. And he had a cult following. And like when you speak about like the timeline and you put it into context in terms of number of years, I can only think, I get like two feelings. I get the first is like, mate, he had a life really well lived. Incredibly well lived in his short 41 years, but also cut too short.
Imagine where it could have gone to.
Like imagine fulfilling probably most of your dreams in your first 40 years, and then it's just like sad but also inspiring at the same time.
It's sad because it got cut short, but it's inspiring because like he got so far in that time and all of the rest of it. But I guess had he lived to the age of Carl, like how long was Carl like the creative director of Chanel? And like that could have been him for Louis.
He was
Louis V.
creative director or like co-creative director at no, not creative director. He'd designed for Fendi for decades and decades like they were not getting rid of him. I think he was at Fendi longer than he was at Chanel.
Yeah, he was.
But yeah, you're right. I think they would have had a similar legacy had he lived as old.
And like even part of his Nike collab, he designed an outfit for Serena Williams to wear. For the US Open in like 2018 as well.
We talk about this.
Huh?
Did we ever talk about her tutu?
No.
We talked about her cat suit.
Her cat suit.
Did he design the cat suit?
I don't know. I think it was just this outfit. I think he just kind of had some really interesting collaborations ideas. And so like 2018 was his year, right? Because by the end of 2018, an index ranked Off-White as the hottest label in the world ahead of Gucci. And that was like around the time where Gucci like
was the big boy.
Like we're still on Gucci's decline from that now, and it's a slow decline because they've just been like up and like
disco
the it brand and
disco bags,
that belt, like I don't know now, like, and then the shoe revolution was kind of coming after that. But
now I think we have to discuss my favorite era of Virgil, and that is at Louis Vuitton, because I've said a number of times on this podcast episode that Off-White wasn't for me, but his collections at Louis Vuitton, I believed, were incredibly thought out. Were incredibly like, you watch the shows and there's something different in all of them. There's so many elements. It's so, to me, I like art that even if I don't like it, I like to see like
you appreciate what's gone into it.
I like to see, oh wow, that's a fully fleshed out idea. Does that make sense? And I think I'd spoken about the Louis Vuitton Autumn Winter 21 collection that was like before the tribute one, the Virgil was here, that just was released this week. It was the collection before, and I thought it was stunning. It had like brought on elements of his like West African culture. So there was a lot of sashes and like men's tunics and the color green, which is like the flag of Nigeria as well. And just like it brought in elements that you just don't normally see from this like European fashion house, but also like heavily streetwear as well. And I don't know, hands down, I think that, have you seen this one? Virgil was here. So when I watched it, I genuinely felt like, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to shed a tear. it was so like, as we've said before, like a life cut short.
Yeah.
And so I'll just like go through some of like the motifs in the show, which you see from like, I believe his first one was like the Wiz inspired one with the like yellow brick road. And then he had a Michael Jackson. Yeah, well, that was the Wiz. Had elements of like Michael Jackson and such. And then the Autumn Winter show I was talking about, and this one, there was like kind of themes that ran through them. So like one thing that I remember Virgil Abloh LV is this ombre color, this rainbow of ombre colors.
Yeah.
And so that was in this show. There was a lot of like balaclavas with caps on top, or balaclavas with like berets on top. There were a lot of blazers and like fitted leather coats, whether it's like jackets or trenches. There was like travel motifs, because LV essentially started as a travel luggage.
Yeah.
And you see like a lot of luggage and trunks and backpacks as well in this, which is really cool. And yeah, like I think also the same with this show and the previous ones, the music, the soundtrack is actually really cool. It's such a vibe, and you feel like the music goes with the show.
Yeah.
Like it's all part of that scene, let's say. It's for that sort of customer would like that music. And I guess maybe being a DJ in a former life and an all-round creative person, as you said, with like Carl shows, the set and the theme was everything. You know, you remember the set just as much as you remember like the standout pieces of clothes. And I think when I watch this, I will remember the music and how like banging I thought the music was, just as much as I will remember the clothes as well.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, another thing whilst watching the show, it reminded me of a couple of things that Virgil did that became quite mainstream in our fashion. And that was, I believe in his first show, he introduced those linked chains on the outside of the bags, like the luggage bags.
Oh, yeah.
Every handbag has those like gold chains, or like chains that hang off it. And that became like a really big trend. So, yeah. And then also a lot of like sans serif font, you know, we were talking about him writing on stuff. I think there was a period of time where all these fashion houses kind of ditched the like serif font on everything, and it became like clean lines and like clean lettering and things like that. And he was very much part of that wave of like modernizing some of these brands. And yeah, it was held in Miami, Florida. And I just thought it was honestly a stunning show. Like if I die and someone puts that on, I'll be chuffed. There was fireworks, and there was like this hot air balloon, and it starts off with this little boy. It starts off with a video, and it's this little boy, this little kid, and he's black as well. And I can only assume that it's like a projection of himself, as like in his childhood maybe. And this little kid is on a bike, and he's like cycling around the city. And it's very much about, in Virgil's life, from what I've heard, it's very much about achieving your wildest dreams and doing things that other people didn't expect you to do. And I just thought that idea of like thinking big and that like inner child and things like that, and being playful and creative, I don't know, I thought that was probably a really poignant theme in like the video that starts off this show, and also in other collections that he's had. So yeah, watch it. It was stunning, honestly.
I will do. You know what, like I was thinking when you were talking about that, is that for them to put on this show, they knew this was coming.
Well, he designed the collection, and they
but to like
it probably wasn't due to be that day, surely. Close to his death or something. Because also in 2011, LVMH bought 60% of the shares of Off-White.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that was potentially like for a future, to enable Off-White's future to continue.
I do know that LVMH do buy up a lot.
It could be totally unrelated, but I'm sure they had to have an indication of his ill health.
Oh, definitely. I think probably the CEO, he probably told him at some point, like, I'm at the very least, I'm not doing very well right now.
Yeah.
At the very least, you would say something. You wouldn't just like not mention it to like not a soul, not even the person you work really close with. And then,
your employer has to have some form of an indication.
Yeah, I think probably they did have, maybe not all of the company, I think that'd be a bit much, but you know, those who needed to know probably knew something, and that they were able to turn around this show so quickly. But it's only right though, isn't it? And like, I think it was a really nice tribute.
Yeah, for sure. And like, the reason we get so uppity about these celeb creative directors is because these real deal creative directors give so much to the role, like you just can't even fathom. And so to pay the respect where it's due, and like we touched on today, they're not just like designing the clothes, they are there picking the music for the show. He would have probably like helped, like, I don't know, you're there every step of the way, whether it's just overseeing what the invitations look like, what this experience is, what the seating plan is. Like all these things get overseen by these like directors. And it's just like it's important for them to be recognized.
Yeah, and other things that like creative directors do, like Jonathan Anderson, for example, he does Loewe and he has his own brand at the same time. Not only is that a lot of work, but having your own brand gives you an appreciation for how much things cost.
Yes.
And you have to be in tandem with like the financial guys, and when you can put things on and how things work and like the logistics of it. Do you know what I mean? And so there's just a lot of as you said, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of travel, and a lot of these creative directors of these big brands don't have a life outside of the job.
And like it's enough doing one brand, so like doing two is bonkers. And like I'm sure his trajectory would have been to go on and be like a Kyle, where he had three on the go. But also one of, I guess, the most notable things Virgil's probably known for is Miss Hailey Bieber's wedding dress.
Oh yes.
I mean, again, like it was Off-White designing it. Huh?
So this guy was doing everything.
I know. It was Off-White doing it, and actually the dress was really beautiful, like very lacy, very like not street inspired, but then the veil had like the block lettering that he's sort of known for, that said like "Till Death Do Us Part," like an embroidered like that, like his font sort of that he's known for. But yeah, he just sort of seemed to have a touch on so many different things, and yeah, I think, you know, like a lot of the greats have left the building, unfortunately, now. And he was probably one of the most promising talents to become like a future generation's great. I can't think of many other people who sort of have that sort of like reputation or expectation to achieve greatness like he did. So yeah, it's a crying shame.
Yeah, it's nice to know at the very least that he, you know, people kind of what's the phrase? Oh, we butcher phrases on this podcast. It's like they send you your flowers, or they show you your flowers while you're still alive. Basically, they give you a recognition while you're still alive.
Yeah.
Like posthumously, like you die. Yeah. The value of all your stuff goes up, and everyone says how great they were and stuff. But when
he was beloved whilst he was alive. Yeah.
And that's
all a creative can ask for.
Yeah, definitely. Well, guess that's the end of our podcast. An end of an era, definitely.
Yeah. I'm really don't know what Louis V. I was gonna go Louis V, and then I don't know what Louis Vuitton will do sort of to replace him, if they will. It's different because he was a different appointee for them. And so they're either going to have to go in another totally different direction, or sort of go a bit more traditional, because you can't really compare, or you don't want people to be making or drawing a comparison. That's going to be a tough role to fill.
I would not want to be in the way,
filling those boots.
Filling those shoes. I think they might pick someone who was like a Virgil protege, like someone that he really saw promise in.
Kanye.
Don't. No.
I really like.
Kanye has enough to deal with right now. He's got a lot on his plate.
He needs to get his girl back. That's what he needs to do.
Don't, Kim, please run.
Hasn't he been talking about that?
Yeah, I was going to say, any man who goes on like public,
a podcast,
like national media to try and like beg for you to come back home
after he's just been dating like one of the like most attractive models.
Oh God, don't do it, Kim. Anyway, I think that it's one of those things that you have to be really thoughtful about. You don't want to just a carbon copy of Virgil.
No,
you don't want to announce it too soon. It's just made me think, like, all this Off-White and like LV men's stuff that's come out in the past few years, the price of them is gonna
collector's items now.
And I really wanted those sunglasses from the last men's collection. Was I going to spend £550 on them? No, I wasn't.
But they'll never be a knockoff price for that now.
No, they'll never go down in price.
There'll never be a Black Friday price for those.
Only buying Black Friday. But also, no one's going to sell them.
No.
If I had something LV Virgil right now, I'm not selling it, guys. I'm not. Anyway. Yeah. So what is our poll for this week?
I don't know. Maybe should we talk about his replacement? I feel like that's like a bit out of order.
I am curious.
Like, who do people think might replace him? Or which was your favorite Abloh era? Off-White, Louis V.
Yeah.
That'd be quite cool to like know of what our listeners preferred.
We could give some like example pictures.
All four of you. We're just joking. We know there's more. We know.
I think that's a good question. What was your favorite Virgil era? And also, do you own anything designed by Virgil?
And will you be selling it? Miranda wants to know.
And is it those LV cyclone glasses? And do you accept fivers? Because that's my budget, a fiver. Okay, cool. Well, nothing else from us. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast for another December. This is our second Christmas.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do something like special
for end of year. We could do something similar to like what we did last year.
I can't even remember what that was.
Like the year in review.
Oh, okay, yeah, we will.
Standout moments of fashion for the year.
Okay.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah, we've got another 2 weeks to plan that.
Yeah. I don't feel Christmassy at all. Do you?
I bought a wreath for our front door at Costco. It's pretty big. I need back.
I mean, like I've got I've got the tree up, I've got everything, and like I'm wearing a Christmas jumper every day, but just don't feel like the holidays are coming.
I know what you mean.
Maybe it's age.
I think it's age. I was going to say, I think it's age. It's not magical. It hasn't snowed yet. It
did try. It did try.
Not in the southeast.
Not where you were. It did here.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I saw some big snowdrops with my nephew.
Oh, cute.
He was like, it's raining. And I was like, it is not raining. It is snowing. It's raining. And I was like, buddy, it's snowing.
What do these kids know nowadays?
I know. But yeah, let us know. And yeah, we will see you next
week. Bye. Bye.